There we are, guys. So you see this little dot? This was the continuous glucose monitor that I was wearing. So this was right back here on the back of my arm. And I wanted to see, really what my glucose did, what my blood sugar levels did every time that I ate something, how my body was handling my diet, and the things that I could get away with. And the things that I was eating, even though I felt good, was it harming me on a chemical level? Was my blood sugar coming up and going down? How did things affect me? These are all things that I learned over the last couple weeks wearing this. So I would highly recommend wearing one of these if you want to fine tune your diet, if you want to kind of figure out how high your blood sugar spikes up when you eat certain things. I mean, it was pretty insightful for me. I learned a lot when I did it. And so I only did it for 2 weeks. I used the NutriSense was the company that I used for this. It was $195 at the time I did it for a 2-week period. So, but it was worth it. It gave me a good look into how my body handles everything. And so I'm gonna share with you guys a few of the things that I learned over the 2-week period that I used it. First off, the days that I exercised, so much easier to keep my blood sugar level. The days that I would eat more of a carnivore, a keto type diet, high fat, high protein, obviously my blood sugar was staying so much more level on those days. And then anytime that I used fasting helped a ton. So obviously if you're fasting, your blood sugar is gonna stay where it's gonna stay, and it's not gonna have these spikes and peaks because you're not eating different things. So those were, working out, exercising, the keto carnivore type high fat, high protein diets, and then anytime that I was using fasting, those were obviously beneficial things. Some of the things, so I eat a lot of carbs. So I have, and when I say carbs, I mean like white rice, sweet potatoes, purple potatoes, a white potato maybe twice a month, but in oats. So I eat those 3 carbs, or those 3 or 4 different carbs quite a bit. And so I really wanted to see when I was wearing this monitor was how well my body handles the blood sugar, how well my blood sugar can handle the carbs. And so I found out that my body really handles carbs pretty well. Granted, I'm pretty metabolically tolerant, okay? So I'm in a good metabolic state, but if I was overweight or hadn't been exercising, I let my health go for a few years, I would not recommend eating the carbs like I'm doing. I just feel better when I'm working out 5 or 6 days a week. I feel better when I have carbs. So I wanted to make sure my blood sugar is following suit with that. And it really was. So I did find out when I would eat my carbs later at night, my blood sugar would not go down. So it was harder for me to have the carbs late at night, but as long as I had them like at breakfast and lunch and mid-afternoon, like I was golden and I could get my blood sugar down before I went to bed. And I think if I could have eaten an earlier dinner and had the carbs, I would have been fine. But typically for us and our family, we're eating dinner at 8 o'clock at night and we're going to bed at 9:30 or 10. So it just wasn't enough time for me to process the carbs before I went to sleep. I noticed that if I had like oats without like a protein source, that my blood sugar would go up a lot faster. If I would have like white rice without a protein source, my blood sugar would go up faster. But a typical meal for me would be like 3/4 of a cup of white rice and about half a pound of ground beef and some liver with it. And so if I was eating all those things, I would just have a pretty small, minimal spike in my blood sugar, and it would come down really fast. With the oats, if I would add butter and coconut oil and protein powder to it, then all of a sudden that oats and blueberries, which I was eating, my blood sugar wouldn't spike up as much there because I have more complete source of protein, fat, and carbs. So the idea here is if you have too many carbs and just carbs and no fat or protein with it, your blood sugar is going to go up faster. So you got to make sure you put fat and protein with it. That's going to be beneficial for you as well. Some of the worst spikes I did, I wish I would have, the only thing I wish I would have done was like had a little bit more fun experimenting with things. The only thing, I ate a Cliff Bar at one point. We were in between soccer games and we went to the grocery store and we just grabbed a bar. And so I was like, I'm gonna try one of these Cliff Bars to see what it does since I had that monitor on. And it spiked me up. It was my highest spike. So there's only 2 times in the 2 weeks that I came out of a normal range. Once was from the Cliff Bar. And so even though it says organic, stuff and everything, it's still like loaded with sugar and cane syrup and a bunch of junk. So my blood sugar spiked up and it really didn't come down that quick on that one. I also had a couple of dried apricots after that. because I noticed that every time I would have fruit, my blood sugar would come up, and it would come up and come down pretty fast, but there was a lot of spikes with fruit. So another insight I gained, that if I wanted to lose weight or weight loss was a goal for me, I would definitely be careful with the fruit, because there's just too many blood sugar spikes with fruit that you really need to stay away from that and be more on a carnivore keto type diet if weight loss is a goal, because your blood sugar is just going to take too much up and down action with that. The only other time I spiked out of range is I took 4 bites of like an organic ice cream, and it didn't have a ton of sugar, but it did have some like organic sugar with it. That was after a high carbohydrate meal that I'd had some purple sweet potatoes that night, and then I took about 4 bites of that ice cream to see what happened. And that was a time where I did spike up. So the 2 times I spiked up and went out of range was because of sugar, obviously. It really wasn't the carbs that did it, it was the sugar that did it. So, it was really insightful to see all that. If you want to try it, it's NutriSystem, but I would highly recommend it.